Welcome, welcome, welcome. Crystal, how are you? Crystal Hawk sounds like a movie star, by the way. Juliana, there's a name. And how you doing? Haven't seen you in forever. It's good to see you, even though it's on Zoom. It's wonderful to see you. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Very good. Delightful to see you. So welcome. Just makes my day seeing you. So thanks for joining us. Welcome, welcome. I would just give it another minute for one or two more people to join, and then we are going to go to work on thinking about and having a breakthrough on lawyer burnout. So I would like to introduce myself briefly. My name is Steve Riley. I get the pleasure of facilitating today's workshop. And this is a very near and dear topic to me. I have been practicing law for over 30 years. I did plaintiff's work, trial work. I did estate planning and elder law for a good 10 to 12 years, which in itself is a funny story. I went from one place to another in the past 10 years of my career. I've been here at Atticus, and my job is to really lead workshops and design curriculum to help lawyers grow a great practice and have a great life. That's really what I do every single day. So I get the pleasure of talking today's workshop because of a lot of our clients, all attorneys. We work with about 600 law firms across the US. A few in Canada, allegedly one in New Zealand, but the purpose of today's workshop is to help you think about how to deal and protect yourself from burnout. And so when we go through this, I got to tell you, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt many times where I worked myself and burned myself out. So a lot of the strategies and the thinking around this is from my personal experience and from the experience of we've about 20, 25 coaches, their experiences and feedback. So today is a condensed conversation on how to help you think about and deal with burnout and really approach burnout from the perspective of shifting more of a peak performance conversation. We have today Abby, who's with the Atticus team. Terry is here as well. I saw Terry. Abby, I don't know if anyone else from the Atticus team has joined us, but if they do, let me know and I'll say hello.
Okay.
And my intention today is to have you think about having a breakthrough in how you think about peak performance. Now, why is this so critical? As a practitioner, as a team leader, firm administrator, associate attorney, paralegal, it doesn't matter. But there are three major impacts on you emotionally and physically in the practice of law. The first one is the stress of the cases. There's a tremendous amount of research showing that lawyers get collateral PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, on helping their clients deal with issues. Now, as lawyers, we're not trained for that. We're not trained as therapists. We're not trained as psychiatrists. We're not trained as social workers. So we have to kind of learn on the job how to help people deal with some of the trauma that they're going through in their life and practice. Now, the trauma can be everything from a horrible family law custody case to a terrible car accident to, quite frankly, in the elder law world and the estate planning world, some of the, a death of a loved one, or something significant that's occurring in the business world, the loss of a business. So there's a tremendous amount of emotional stress that comes with the practice that we bear and deal with that also contributes to burnout. The second issue that you have to be aware of and think about is if you're a solo practitioner or a partner in a small firm, you got to run the business. And if you're a team leader, you're also helping run the business. So the stress of just running a business day to day compounds you. And then, of course, you got life. You just have life. I have 2 college-age kids. My wife is dealing with a health issue. So we have a lot of stress in our life just day to day. And of course, as we're also doing this webinar, there's construction going on outside of my office. So that adds some more fun to it. So when we look at this, one of the things that I want to draw your attention to is that you don't have just your life you're dealing with stressfully. You don't have just the issues of the business, but you also have the trauma of helping other people deal with the trauma in their cases in your practice. So you're really juggling 3 intense emotional experiences all of the time. So you have to understand, you're not going to be a point in your career where you won't be dealing with one of these 3 emotional balls. You're dealing with all 3 all of the time. So you'll never get to a point where you're, quote, good. You'll always be in a position where you're having to defend yourself emotionally and physically from these three pressures, these three stressful pressures. So the only way I can help you think about this today is just remember that the best defense is a good offense. Now, I try to find the attribution for this quote. It actually goes all the way back to George Washington in the Revolutionary War. But it's been used many times. And as I want you to think about this, I really want you to think, okay, to defend myself from these three heavy pieces of stress, I want to invest in my own well-being. And the only way I can really help you think about this is to think about it not from a defensive posture, but from a position of peak performance. And most lawyers want to grow. They want to be better practitioners. They want to be better at what they do. To do that, you have to be in a peak performance mindset. You have to be in a peak performance physical state. And sometimes we don't think that way. Sometimes we think the opposite. We think we should sacrifice everything for everyone, our cases, our clients, our family, our partners, our staff, and consequently, we back the bus over our own selves. So the first thing I want to encourage you to consider is, I assume most of us have flown somewhere. I'd like you to consider that the most important thing to do is to shift your thinking and say the first person I need to put the oxygen mask on first when it comes to dealing with burnout and improving my peak performance is myself. So you have to prioritize your thinking around improving yourself. How do you improve your own peak performance? And I'm going to walk you through two things. I'm going to walk you through the elements of what we look at in helping coach our high-performing attorneys through their own peak performance. And I'm going to give you a scorecard to self-assess how you think you're doing. Now, this is something that we do with some of our premium clients once a quarter. This is something we do with our one-on-one clients probably once or twice a year to have them self-assess how they're doing on maximizing their peak performance, both as a defense to stress, but also as a fuel for growth. Because if you're burned out, you can't grow. If you're burned out, you can't push the firm forward. If you're burned out, you can't lead. You can't create vision. You can have thoughts and ideas, but you can actually push things forward. You can't push anything uphill. So to grow and defend yourself, investing into your peak performance is actually a critical strategy. So these are the core elements. After doing a lot of research on the elements of peak performance, the first thing I want to look for is energy level. How are we doing energy-wise? Are we doing well? Are we burned out? Are we exhausted? What are we doing? How do we feel? The second criteria is planning and thinking about peak performance as a strategy. Most lawyers don't think this way. Most lawyers don't think, wow, I actually have to invest in my own performance to actually impact my law firm and to protect myself. So I need to actually invest in myself to the extent that I can perform better as a practitioner. If you think about it, your clients don't really pay you for your tasks. They pay you for your judgment. They pay you to solve complex, emotionally intense problems. They pay you for your judgment. So for you, keeping your cognitive capabilities at peak is a critical element of you performing at your peak. So ethically, if you say, really, for me, I have an ethical commitment to perform at my peak because that's really what my clients want me to do. They want me to be at my peak. So you're actually in this really weird position where you're kind of working yourself into a mindset that ethically, the best thing for me to do is take great care of myself so I can perform at my peak. A very interesting way to think about it. 3 is fuel. For me, I thought at a certain point in my career that the best way to fuel myself was with caffeine and not eat and skip meals and not be concerned about my nutrition. And a lot of lawyers, especially early in their career, are there. And over time, your performance declines. So we got to have you think about what's the fuel for peak performance. And then physical fitness and well-being. There's a plethora of studies that show that your cognitive function and your stress is reduced by physical exercise and certain types of spiritual practices. Next is your overall health status. So when we look at your overall health status, a couple of years ago, I had a fairly significant shoulder surgery. It totally wrecked my peak performance. So my wife is dealing with a health issue. She's not at her peak. So you may have a health issue that may be impairing this, or you may be in great peak performance and you want to go a little bit better, but your overall health status is something to take in consideration. And spiritual mindfulness practices, nothing will make you feel more aligned with your purpose in life, the sense of meaning about your practice, a sense of meaning about your career, than managing and focusing on a spiritual practice of some form. And then key relationships. Key relationships can be the people in your family, it could be your partners, it could be your team, it could be core clients. And sometimes having those relationships working very, very well allows you to perform very, very well. If those relationships aren't working very, very well, you don't feel great about your life, you don't feel great about your practice, and you don't perform very, very well. And then focus and mindset, your ability to have a great focus and mindset. So what I'm going to do, and this is going to be a little bit of a risk for us, but we're going to try and do it together because I think it'll be very impactful. Abby has posted the scorecard in the chat box. And this is a fillable PDF. So if you want to print it out or if you want to go for it, I would suggest you go ahead and download it right now. Abby, are we good? Have you printed it? Have you posted it? Thank you.
Yep.
So if you want to go for this, go for it. And I want to walk you through the scorecard briefly. It'll probably take us about 10 minutes to do this together. But I think instead of you sitting here and hearing me babble about this, I think it'll be more impactful for if you print this out or if you pull this up on your computer and kind of answer it for yourself. And I'll walk you through some elements of this so you can kind of think about it and look at it. Juliana, you print this out. It'll be fun for you to do this. Those of you that want to take this on, go for it. You can do it later if you want, but it'll take us about 10, maybe 15 minutes at the most to do this together. But it's going to allow you to benchmark how you're doing against the best practices of how we're coaching our top performing lawyers. So it gives you a real quick 10-minute exercise. And if you don't do it now, the odds of you doing it later are pretty slim. So I would go for it. That's me. So if you've got the scorecard, I'm going to start working it through the scorecard. Does that work for everybody? Give me a thumbs up if you got it, just so I can see it. Thank you, Juliana. Joe, you got it? Okay, thank you, sir. I just want to make sure some of you are not sharing your camera, so I don't know. Hey, Lori, good to see you. Very good. Thank you. I got Dina, thank you. If you can at least give me the proverbial Zoom thumbs up, that works very, very well as well. Very good. All right, so here we go. Let's go for this. So I'm going to go through this. 1 obviously is a low score. 5 is your best score. And I'm going to walk through a couple of these with you. So energy level. So here is, the first one is we're working through together. The criteria is if you're at this stage, you're probably burned out. And this is one of our clients' favorite ones. I'm surrounded by idiots. I'm so tired. Everyone is stupid. I'm burned out. This is mine personally. Whenever I get burned out, everybody becomes really stupid. And I know that's not the case, but this seems like everyone's stupid because I become very tired and cranky. So if you're here and you're surrounded by idiots, you might be on the 1 category for being burned out. 2, I'm exhausted. I'm struggling to stay focused. Each day feels like a slog. I'm kind of frustrated with my life. Sustaining. Most people under sustaining saying, I feel okay. I think there's a possibility that things will be okay. 4 is I'm good. I'm recovered. My energy levels are strong. I'm interested in taking on a bigger game. Now, this is interesting. People really don't take on a bigger game until they're probably about stage 4 on their energy levels. And this is something I've learned over the years. If someone's burned out, I don't see a high level of performance. 5, when they're at peak, they're pretty grateful. They're kind of happy. They're joyful, and they're excited and feeling good about the future. So if you're working with me, go ahead and score yourself on this and just go for it. Put whatever you think. And all progress here starts when you tell the truth about it. So only you are seeing this. You're not going to have to disclose or share this score with anybody. So be honest, be honest. And 90 days from now or 30 days from now, when you redo this score, you can see if you made progress or if you've gone backwards. 2, peak performance strategies. My strategies run hard, fast, and long until I can't run any farther. There must be a finish line somewhere, and I'll keep running until I find it or collapse. This is how a lot of lawyers operate. 2, I'm aware that I may be on the verge of burnout, like I'm conscious, so exhausted. But I see there's hope in the future. I may have a day for recovery soon. 3, sustaining. I got a balance in starting. I'm getting a balance and starting to recover my energy, and I'm hopeful to keep the momentum going and not backwards. 4, I got a good rhythm of work days and recovery days. Now, this is important if you're, especially if you're a trial lawyer or your practice requires a high level of performance on face-to-face, whether it's mediations, negotiations, hearings, depositions. It's important to think about having days to recover. One of my clients is extraordinarily gifted trial lawyer, and he's 62. And when he completes the trial, we usually try and block 1 to 2 weeks off so he can recover from the amount of energy that it takes to do a trial. So you got to look at your schedule and say, how do I plan this so that I can block some time off so I can quickly recover from something intense like a mediation or a trial. And then, of course, 4, I have peak performance focused to my days. I know which day I must perform the best and protect recovery days in advance. This is one of the things that took me to a while to learn, that I knew if I was going to do something that's going to be incredibly intense, I had to plan ahead to make sure I had some time off in advance so I could get my energy levels up and I wouldn't be exhausted going into the intense experience, whether it be a trial, a hearing, a negotiation, what have you. 3 is fuel for performance. And this is a fun one. So I work myself so hard that I treat myself with indulgences, like a dog that performed for a treat. My mouth is for stress relief. And this is where a lot of lawyers end up if they just grind. 2, some days I treat my body like a temple, other days I treat it like a garbage dump. I'm inconsistent in what I do, and I do what I can get by with caffeine and energy drinks. 3, I'm progressing. I'm at least half the time I'm fueling myself with quality nutrition. 4 is I have a nutrition plan, which is where I really like to see most of my clients, is having at least an understanding of what they're eating, why they're eating, and having a nutrition plan that pushes them towards peak performance. And I'd like to see about a 70% consistency with this. 5, 80% consistency with the peak nutrition performance plan, because I'm really trying to get the lawyers to perform at their peak. I don't care how they look in a bathing suit. I want them to appreciate that how they eat actually impacts their cognitive function and energies. 4, physical fitness and well-being. I got no time to exercise. This is usually what people say when they're burned out. I must work. I need to sacrifice for my practice. Nobody understands how important I am. My body mass index is BS. I just don't care. And if you're there from a physical perspective, you're probably burned out, because your physical well-being is not only important for a great life, but it's actually important for a great practice, because we want peak cognitive function. 2, exhausted. I'm making progress, not thrilled with it, but I'm starting. I have a plan to increase my fitness. My body mass index is not so good. We're not going to talk about it, but we're aware of it. 3, sustaining. I'm doing well. I'm consistently exercising. My body mass index is above where I need it to be, but it's less than what it was. 4, I'm recovered. I'm consistent with my exercise program. My body mass index is in the normal range. I feel good about myself. I actually feel good about how I feel. And 5, I'm in the best shape of my life. My body mass index is normal, and I can talk about my body fat percentage with pride, and I'm confident in my level of fitness. So those are the first 4 criteria that we're walking through. I'm going to stop for a minute, and I think, and now we'll just drive through. We'll just drive through the next couples. The next one's overall status of my healthcare. Look at it. In this case, you might be recovering from illness or injury. Could be dental, physical, but you're in pain. So for me, you're at 1 if you're in pain. 2 is where you're recovering from a health issue. 3 is where you feel like you're making progress of whatever that health issue may be. 4, I feel good. I'm current with my health issues and checkups. I'm ahead of the game. 5 is I feel great. I have a team of professionals helping me perform, and I'm proactive here. Next category, spiritual mindfulness practice. I have a lot of lawyers that tell me I got no time for this stuff. It's voodoo mumbo jumbo. And if I did do this, I would lose my edge, which is just a terrible place to be, because you're actually on a decline here. Two, you're inconsistent. When I do practice, I feel connected to my why. I feel connected to what my lifetime legacy is about. Three is about half the time I'm embracing or working on my spiritual mindfulness practice, but I'm happy with my progress. I could do more, but I'm happy. Four is I'm consistent. I'm practicing 70% of the time and I'm living consistent. I feel like I'm consistent with my why for my life. Five is I'm joyful and grateful. I have a daily spiritual practice or meditative practice that's a cornerstone habit of my life. And I feel like I'm living my why, like I'm living my purpose. I feel like I'm doing a great job being aligned. And then the next one's key relationships. Look how you're doing with your key relationships. And this one I really like because people will sometimes tell me, did I mention that I'm surrounded by idiots? If everybody would just do what I would say, we would all be happier. That's usually when you're burnout, where you're sitting there just telling if everybody would just do what I say, life would be good. Next one is I'm struggling with key relationships. How am I doing with key relationships? Three, I'm doing well. I feel like I have integrity. I'm in integrity with the most important relationships. So that means that you're kind of in stasis. You're like in balance. Four, I'm proactively working on my relationships. And five, I'm grateful for some of the amazing relationships in my life. I continue to invest in those relationships. And then last but not least is your focus. This is critical because we're having a very interesting conversation about peak performance. And I'm arguing for you to take a proactive strategic approach to your peak performance. To get there, your focus and mindset around this has to shift a little bit. And to be a top performer, we have to get you to think like a top performer. And your focus, if you're burned out, is every day is another day of whack-a-mole. Now, for those of you who don't know what whack-a-mole is a game that you see at arcades where you're trying to stop a mole from popping up. You're just whacking. Every day is whack-a-mole. I feel like I'm whacking and just responding to problems in crisis. I feel like I will never get ahead. I can't do what I want when I want. And I admire any form of organizational process, like a planning process. Two is I'm reactive and I'm trying to get control of my day. I feel like I'm making some progress. I think most of my time is proactive. I do what I want when I want. Three is I think I'm getting a good balance between reactive and proactive focus. Four is I'm getting ahead. I feel like my days are more focused. I'm moving forward more than I'm retreating. And in this case, in our case, with our clients, we have a focusing tool, a planning tool called My Great Life Planner. And for me, I can tell if my clients are focused if they're using the planner. In the planner, I'm doing grab mine real quick. The planner is just a written planner. You don't have to use ours, but anything that gets you out of the electronic ocean and into a focused decision-making process. And most of the time for lawyers that are electronically leashed to their practices, getting them on paper to think about how to plan their day, plan their week is a critical element to help them become more focused. Interestingly enough, going analog versus digital actually improves focus. And five, I understand how to structure my weeks and days. And at this level, you understand how to actually perform more like an athlete or an entertainer. You actually know how to structure your calendar to maximize your performance. And that's usually when I know I got a lawyer who's performing very well, because they know how they perform at their peak and they've organized it and their team have organized how to help them perform. So I'm sharing this tool with you from the perspective that I'm inviting you to have a core strategy to break through burnout and go to peak performance. But to do this, you have to commit to a strategic approach. You have to decide what would a commitment to my peak performance look like. You would have to decide how would this be worth investing? What would it do to my law firm if you're at your peak? Now, if you want to test this theory, go to your team, go to your partners, go to your associates, and ask them the following question. What do I look like when I'm at work, my worst? When I'm tired, I'm burned out, and I'm not at my best? What do I look like? And what am I like to practice with? What do I look like when I'm at my best? And which of the two do you like better? Now, I know the last one's kind of a trick question, but I want you to go ahead and do a self-assessment. Ask people what it would look like if you're playing at your peak all the time. And if you were to improve your peak performance, just commit to it for 90 days or even a year, what would that look like to you? How would that benefit to you? How would it benefit your law firm? And if we played for this, what would the benefit be to you both for longevity and cognitive improvement? Not just to reduce your stress and your burnout, but actually over time to make you a better physical human being. What difference would it make? So I'm going to spend the last 5 minutes together to transition us to another conversation. Those of you that would like to, I'm going to spend a few minutes afterwards, if you'd like me to hang out and answer any questions about this topic that you would like to go a little bit deeper in and wrestle with. And I think we have Lori and Terry here from the Atticus team as well. They're probably better at I am than some of the stuff, so they'll ask them to stay on for a few minutes if they can. And if you've got some additional questions, we'll hang out for a few minutes. If not, totally get it, because we're all tightly scheduled. Just remember, at the core of this conversation is a formula. And the core of this formula is that to make a really great practice and live a great life, you have to balance or add great business skills to your practice. And that's really what this is about, is really improving your practice skills. And to get there, there's usually 4 critical business skills that lawyers miss. It's the foundation of your legal skills. The legal skills get you into the game and allow you to practice, but they don't allow you to perform at your peak. And to grow your practice, you really need 4 critical business skills. Number 1 is the ability to sharpen your focus and prioritize. And that's kind of what this conversation falls under, getting you to play at your peak. 2, to attract high value clients and great cases. Most lawyers get to the habit of just taking cases that come to them, but they never get to a point where they actually learn how to build a referral machine and get great cases. 3 is not a good team, not an acceptable team, not a tolerable team, but a great team. The 2 things that stress lawyers out the most are bad clients and bad team, bad staff. So taking bad cases and bad staff is awful. Now, if we select great team and great cases, our lives are a lot easier. And the 4th skill is understanding how to increase cash flow and profitability inside your practice. Now, as we come to a close, there are 2 things I'd like to share with you. Number 1, if you want to implement these changes, my standard recommendation is if your day looks like this, you've got to make some room in your day to adopt some strategies. So if your calendar is overflowing with to-dos and tasks, you're probably not going to be too successful in implementing what we learned today or what we shared today. To actually get to the next level, we actually want to encourage you to take a little bit of time to invest in yourself and your practice daily and have a slice of that. To do so, I am going to give you an opportunity to look at some upcoming programs that we're teaching if you want to do a deeper dive and we like today's workshop. On June 22nd from 2 p.m. to 3:30 Eastern, there is a workshop I will be teaching that's called Am I a Referable Lawyer? And this is really about increasing and getting more cases. And it's one of the things I love is how I built 2 very successful practices. And I'm going to teach you some proven strategies that we teach. We've been doing this for 30 plus years, some proven strategies to immediately start getting good cases. 2, I'm going to walk you through a referral process that we teach and understand how that referral process impacts your ability to get great cases. 3, we're going to work on what to say and how to say it. So if you're going to ask for business, you want to know when to say it and how to say it. And 4, how to ask for business so it's ethical and comfortable and, more importantly, effective. And then we're going to lead with an action plan. Now, I have to beg for these things. So if you want to take advantage of this and you've hung with me through the whole 30-minute conversation today, I got a thank you gift, and that is a half-off coupon. And Abby is going to post in the chat box a link. If you want to take advantage of this, you can take advantage of this and do this workshop for half off. And it is a very complicated coupon. It's half off ref, which I guess stands for referral. I guess that's what it stands for. not half off of a ref, but half off referral. That's what I think we're going for there. So other upcoming programs I want to talk to you briefly about. Number one is the Practice Growth Program, which is the premium coaching program that we lead that starts August 25th. You can find out more about this on our website. It occurs, you meet every 90 days with other coaches. We do a one-day workshop called Double Your Revenue, which is pretty much designed to do what exactly it says, which is to take your revenue and times it by 2 and help you think through how to do that. And then we're doing another workshop on October 19th, which is really kind of doing a year-end sprint on meeting your profit targets and finishing the year strong. So those are the upcoming workshops. You can also find those on our website. With that, I'm going to thank you for hanging out with us. Abby, I'm going to stop for a minute because I've been going without breathing, and I'm going to stop and see if there's any questions or anything that you see in the chat box. Those of you that have budgeted this for 30 minutes, thank you for spending the time with us. Those of you who'd like to hang out for a few more minutes, you're more welcome to, and I can answer some questions and with anything. If you've got a question, you just unmute yourself and wave frantically so we can see you, and then we will answer your questions. Abby, do you have anything for me?
Nope, and no questions in the chat box so far. So if you guys have a question,
Beautiful.
you can chat it or you can wave your hand.
Beautiful. I just see 19 things in the chat and it panicked me, Abby.
I'm going to post my email in the chat for everybody. If they have any questions afterward, please reach out to me. Or Denise can help you, and I'll direct you to her as well. So just so you'll have that information.
Thank you, Terry. Joe, you got something? I see you unmuted.
Yeah. How do you feel about extracurricular reading something that's completely unrelated to the law?
I love it. I love it. I think it's critical. I think it's absolutely important. You nailed it. I think one of my highest performing lawyers have hobbies outside the law, and reading things that you love to read that have nothing to do with the law is a fantastic practice. It's an incredible practice. I love it. Is it fiction, nonfiction? Are you like Peter Drucker?
Well, it's funny. I have a history and a law degree, and I enjoy history so much more. Law's kind of finite when you think about it.
Yeah.
Kind of
totally.
limited. I mean, it's the rules, the case law. But I love reading history.
Yeah, and after a while, if you've been doing it for a while, the cases start to look the same, don't they, Joe?
Sure.
No, they start to look a while. I think the possibility of reading other history, maybe even taking a history course, maybe even working on a master's or something like that forces you to read more history is a fantastic idea. I find that my lawyers that work on something other than the practice actually perform better. One of my best lawyers from a national level, she represented the state of Michigan in the Flint settlement. She knits. And when you meet her, you'd be surprised that she knits. She actually knits. One of my top performing lawyers in California paints. She paints and bakes. And so we found things for them to do outside the practice because we found that their creativity jumps because they're taking time off and they're learning new things that are not like the law. So you are onto something, my friend. I think it's a fantastic idea. Absolutely fantastic. It's one of the challenges that we push in our upper level programs. We challenge lawyers to take 175 days off a year. It's kind of freakish, right? It's kind of freakish when you first think about it. You can't do it your first year, but over a couple of years, you start to get to that point, and you got to find something interesting to do that's more important and powerful than practicing, right? Because if you don't have something interesting to do, you default to practicing because you got so much stuff to do at the practice. So you are onto something, my friend. I think it's a fantastic idea. You got nothing but a total go for it from me. Fantastic idea. Absolutely fantastic. I'm going to check in, Lori, anything you want to add before we wrap up? And I'm going to see if there's anything else before we call it.
Did Crystal have a question? She unmuted.
Oh, yeah. Well, are there any easy first steps to I have a calendar. Literally right now, I am fully scheduled with appointments 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. I have some phone time and email time blocked off, but I'm fully scheduled almost to the end of August right now. Yeah. So it's what are some easy steps to kind of deal with that so I can get more caught up, or is there an easy jump from that to something?
It's a great question. I got 3 for you, not 1, but 3. You ready?
Okay.
The first one you're not going to like. You ready? What
Okay.
type of practice you have, Crystal?
Estate planning and Medicaid planning.
You ready?
Mhm.
Raise prices.
I just did that.
Do it again.
Do it again.
Yeah, do it again. Raise prices.
Okay.
Because the first thing that we got to do to take pressure off you and your practice is actually tighten the front end of your intake process. So we only want to take A+ cases when you have more work than you know what to do. So we have to tighten the end. So we have to figure out what an A+ case looks like. So that's the first thing that we do. The second thing that I want you to consider doing is that you just are going to have to figure out how to kind of tighten a few appointment slots. Like where are you allowing things to leak, like appointments that you know should be an hour that end up being 2 hours. So we need to practice a little bit of focused discipline on this. And number 3, I'm going to encourage you to do what's called a positive constraint boundary, which is we're going to tighten the hours that you're allowed to work. So if we do these 3 things together, it should start to alleviate some pressure for you. Okay. So number 1, we raise prices to A+ cases, right? Number 2, if we look at your calendar, we start to tighten where we're leaking time, right? And 3, if I can get you to agree to tighten the hours that you work and say, I'm only going to work from here to here, it starts to teach us, and there's a whole theory called the theory of constraints. It starts to teach us what's spilling over and why is it spilling over? What is it spilling over? The other thing you may want to consider doing is taking advantage of, on our website, you can do what's called a practice growth diagnostic and do a deeper dive on this. I think it's $295. Don't quote me on it, but it's $295. Go to the website and register for one of those. And then you can do a deep dive with one of our practice growth coaches, so to speak, and they'll kind of do a time management assessment with you, a marketing assessment, a cash flow profitability assessment. And they can hear some things. And at the end, they'll say, do this, this, and this that will help you. You're primed for one of our group programs based on where you're at practice-wise. That's something that you may want to consider, because the biggest mistake that you're at here, and I'm going to tell it to you, is working more is not the answer.
I would love to work less and spend more time with my family.
Yeah. So what
my hobbies, yes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So what we're going to have to do is pivot you from a strategic perspective. The traditional lawyer model is to work more. And that's how I was taught. And I'm actually going to say what we're going to have to do is take a big step back and look at the practice from a couple of different perspectives and adjust different areas of the practice. And so every quarter readjust, every quarter readjust, every quarter readjust. And that will give you some breathing room, and more importantly, the power of choosing what you want to do, how you want to do it, and when you want to do it, if that makes sense. So
It does.
Yeah, great
The
question.
first step is always the hardest.
Crystal, I can help you go over that, and I'll send you an email on the link to that as well.
Yeah,
Perfect. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so it's the first step's the hardest. So the first step is just take advantage of the diagnostic. Do that. Show up.
Duly noted.
Show up. Do the diagnostic, and then when you're done with the diagnostic, there'll be like 3 steps there. Do those next 3 steps. Yeah, you got a fantastic personality. You got charisma. Getting business in the door will never be a problem for you. Managing the practice well is going to will kill you.
Agreed. Right? I 100% agree with you.
And you're too young to be cooked alive, so we got to get you.
Please don't.
we got to get you ahead of the curve here. We really
agreed. So well, thank you.
My pleasure. I'm gonna check real quick for Lori. I lost her on my screen. Lori, you still there? I don't know. Is Lori still there?
Lori's here, but Lori, we can't hear you. Oh, there you are.
Sorry, I'm here.
Oh, there.
Hit the unmute button.
Lori, anything you want to add?
Just a little tidbit. I mean, for what it's worth, we've all heard the definition. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, right?
Yeah.
And so for a lot of the concepts or the ideas that Steve has introduced today, maybe brand new for you, maybe something you've dabbled with in the past, maybe something that just seems completely foreign to you. But this is, again, we have to do something different. You can't continue to do the same thing you've done. And for so many firms, as the attorney, especially if you're the owner attorney or one of the key partners of the firm, it all
Owner
falls on
and
your
only
shoulders.
attorney.
Yeah, it all falls on your shoulders, but that's not sustainable. It's not scalable, and it reaches a point pretty quickly. It's not fun. So, so you got to mix it up. You got to try something different. So what we're trying to introduce to you today is strategies, tools that you can incorporate, certainly to help, you know, create that pivot.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
would love to help you, Crystal.
Perfect.
And thank you for joining us today. I'm gonna check and see if anybody else has anything. Joe, thank you. Abby, anything else before we wrap up?
Thanks, Joe.
Joe
Was
has
that
a
Joe?
Bravo.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. And with that, we'll call it today. So thank you, everybody. It was a real pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Talk to you later.
Have a
Bye.
great
Bye,
day.
guys.